I never thought I'd risk my life for a capybara. But when I saw it struggling, I knew I had no choice. The morning had started like any other day, volunteering at the Amazon Wildlife Sanctuary. The rainy season had been particularly brutal this year, with flash floods devastating the lowland areas where many animals made their homes. As the sanctuary's newest volunteer, I was still learning the ropes, but my background as a former search and rescue worker had proven useful during these increasingly common emergency situations. That morning, the radio crackled with urgency. A local farmer had spotted a capybara trapped on a small island of earth that was quickly disappearing beneath the rising floodwaters. Without hesitation, I grabbed our emergency rescue kit and headed out with Marco, our most experienced guide. "The waters are still rising," Marco warned as we loaded the boat. "We have maybe an hour before that whole area is completely submerged." The engine roared to life as we sped down the swollen river. Brown water churned around us, carrying debris, branches, remnants of someone's home, even a half-submerged refrigerator. The normally peaceful landscape had transformed into something chaotic and dangerous. "There," Marco pointed toward a small mound of earth barely visible above the water. And there it was, a capybara, the largest rodent in the world, normally so adept in water, now visibly exhausted and terrified. Its normally sleek fur was matted and dirty. One of its hind legs appeared to be caught in something beneath the surface. "It's trapped," I whispered, my heart sinking. And the water's still rising. We anchored the boat as close as we dared, but the currents were too strong to get any closer than about 15 feet from the trapped animal. I could see its sides heaving with each labored breath, its usually calm eyes wide with fear. "I'm going in," I said, already securing a safety line around my waist. Marco grabbed my arm. "Anna, wait. These currents are unpredictable. We should try to reach it with the pole first." But I could see the water lapping at the capybara's chin. There wasn't time for caution. "If I don't go now, it dies," I said simply, and before he could protest further, I slipped into the murky water. The current immediately tried to pull me away, but I fought against it, keeping my eyes fixed on the struggling animal. The cold water seeped through my wetsuit, a stark reminder of how quickly hypothermia could set in for the capybara. As I got closer, I could see what had trapped it. A tangle of fishing net, probably swept away in the flood, had wrapped around its hind leg and anchored it to a submerged tree root. The capybara thrashed weakly as I approached, its eyes rolling in fear. "It's okay," I said softly, though I knew it couldn't understand me. "I'm here to help you." Time slowed as I reached for my knife, my fingers numb from the cold water. The capybara had stopped struggling, its strength fading. With one hand, I held its head above water. With the other, I worked to cut through the tangled net. The water continued to rise. "Anna." Marco's voice seemed far away. "The current's getting stronger. We need to go now." I could feel the pull of the water increasing, threatening to tear me away from the capybara. The safety line tightened around my waist as Marco tried to secure me. "Just a little more," I muttered through gritted teeth, sawing at the last strands of the net. The capybara's eyes met mine, and in that moment, I felt a connection with this creature that transcended words. There was trust there, exhausted and desperate, but present nonetheless. With a final cut, the net gave way. The capybara was free, but too weak to swim on its own. I wrapped my arms around its barrel-shaped body, surprised at how heavy it was, probably over 100 pounds, and kicked toward the boat. The current fought me every inch of the way. My muscles screamed in protest as I struggled to keep both of us above water. Just when I thought I couldn't hold on any longer, Marco's strong hands reached down and helped pull the capybara into the boat. I collapsed beside it, gasping for breath. The capybara lay motionless, its eyes closed. "Is it—" I couldn't finish the question. Marco quickly checked the animal. "It's alive, but barely. We need to get it back to the sanctuary now." The journey back was a blur of adrenaline and anxiety. I cradled the capybara's head in my lap, talking to it softly, willing it to hold on. Its fur was cold and wet against my skin, but I could feel the faint rise and fall of its chest. "Stay with me," I whispered. "You didn't fight this hard just to give up now." At the sanctuary, our veterinarian, Dr. Lucia, was waiting. The capybara was quickly whisked away to the treatment room, leaving me standing there, dripping and suddenly very aware of how close I'd come to being swept away myself. Hours passed as I paced outside the treatment room. Finally, Dr. Lucia emerged, her face tired but smiling. "She's going to make it," she said. "It's a female about 2 years old. Her leg is injured where the net cut into it, and she's suffering from exhaustion and mild hypothermia. But she's strong. You got to her just in time." Relief washed over me like a physical force. I hadn't realized how invested I'd become in this animal's survival until that moment. "Can I see her?" I asked. Dr. Lucia nodded. "She's sedated, but yes, just for a minute." The capybara lay on a heated pad, her wet fur now dry and fluffy. Her injured leg was bandaged, and an IV drip provided fluids and medication. She looked peaceful now, a far cry from the terrified creature I'd found in the flood. I gently stroked her head, marveling at the softness of her fur. "You're safe now," I whispered. The weeks that followed were a testament to the capybara's resilience. We named her Esperanza, hope, and day by day she grew stronger. At first, she was wary of humans, huddling in the corner of her enclosure whenever anyone approached. But gradually, she began to trust us, especially me. I spent every spare moment with her, talking softly, bringing her favorite treats, sweet potatoes and water hyacinths. Slowly, the fear in her eyes was replaced by curiosity, then recognition, and finally, what I could only describe as affection. The day came when Esperanza was strong enough to be released. We'd found a protected area of the sanctuary with a small lake, perfect for a capybara. As I opened her transport crate, I held my breath, unsure of what she would do. Esperanza poked her nose out cautiously, sniffing the air. Then, with surprising gentleness, she bumped her head against my hand, a gesture I'd come to recognize as her way of asking for affection. I stroked her head one last time. "This is your home now," I told her. "You're free." She looked at me with those deep, intelligent eyes, and I swear she understood. Then, with a grace that belied her stocky build, she waddled toward the water's edge. At the shore, she paused and looked back at me as if to say thank you. Then she slipped into the water and swam away, strong and confident, no longer the frightened creature I'd rescued. I visit that lake often now. Sometimes I catch glimpses of Esperanza, living her capybara life among the reeds and water plants. She's even found a small group of other capybaras to join, a family of her own. People often ask me why I risked my life for a capybara that day. The truth is, in that moment, it wasn't a choice. When you see a living being fighting so hard to survive, something inside you responds. It's not about being a hero. It's about recognizing that all life has value. If you ever see an animal in need, don't hesitate. Sometimes a small act of kindness can save a life. And in saving that life, you might just discover something about yourself. A strength, a purpose, a connection to the world around you that you never knew existed. As for me and Esperanza, our story didn't end with the rescue. It began there.